بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله، صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك يا ابن رسول الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة، ويا باب نجاة الأمة، ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة، يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذ أوى الفتية إلى الكهف فقالوا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Due to the instability and wars and battles around the globe, the world has witnessed an increase in refugees from across the globe that have left their homes, that have left their countries, and have decided to seek refuge in other countries, most notably Western countries. Many from Afghanistan, many from Iraq, many from Syria, many from Yemen, Somalia. Many of these countries that have faced instability, war, crimes, tyranny, oppression. Many of their citizens were forced to flee, to run away from their countries and their homes, and to seek asylum, and to migrate, and to become refugees, mostly in the West. There were some Muslim countries that decided to accept some refugees. They were welcoming. Some of them welcomed some refugees. Maybe, for example, Turkey. It accepted some refugees and granted asylum. However, the vast majority of Islamic countries did not accept refugees. Many of them did not. They were not welcoming. Some of them have a no refugee policy, that our country is for our citizens and our residents. Refugees are not welcome. Refugees can make a U-turn and go back to their own countries where they came from. The funny thing is that some of these countries who have a no refugee policy, they were guilty in promoting instability in those countries in the first place, in supporting oppressive regimes in those countries in the first place. They supported those regimes. Now that there's wars in those areas of the world, now that those citizens have come to their country to seek asylum, they don't grant them asylum. As if refugees are not humans, as if they're animals. They're not human beings worthy of being granted asylum. Here in the West, my dear friends, the West typically has been refugee friendly. Many Western countries, European countries, the United States, Canada, Europe at large, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, Australia, New Zealand, they've welcomed refugees from all across the world. Anyone who sought political asylum and came as refugees, they welcomed them with open arms. As of mid-2024, 29% of the world's refugees were hosted by high-income countries, which include many Western countries such as Canada and the United States. 29% of refugees, this equates to 12.7 million refugees out of the global total of 43.7 million. These 12.7 million refugees, they ended up in the West. They were welcome. Here in the West, they welcomed them. Europe hosted 13.2 million refugees, mostly from Ukraine. 6.2 million refugees from Ukraine, they were hosted in neighboring countries in Europe. In the United States of America, over 27,000 refugees were settled only in 2024. They welcomed over 27,000 refugees from Syria, from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from different parts of the world, and most likely from Ukraine. Canada, Australia, New Zealand, these countries till today, they continue to welcome refugees and grant asylum. However, recently, as of January of 2025, the new U.S. administration took a no refugee policy. They told refugees that you are no longer welcome here in the United States of America. You may seek asylum somewhere else, but not here. Leave America for Americans. Refugees are no longer welcome. This is new. This is a new phenomenon. And unfortunately, sometimes the United States sets an example for the rest of the world. When the United States does not accept refugees, unfortunately, others learn and follow the same pattern of not welcoming refugees and not granting them asylum. There's a fear that European countries will follow and they will stop granting asylum. My dear friends, the same way that refugees and migrants benefit from migrating to the West also benefits from refugees. Yes, you heard me correctly. The West also benefits. Absolutely. You think that they welcome refugees for the sake of Allah? Fi sabilillah? No, they benefit. They benefit. There's a large sector in the economy. There are jobs that your average American or your average Canadian would not accept, but refugees would accept to work in that sort of sector. Many refugees start their own businesses. And these businesses, they create jobs and they generate tax. Who benefits? The government benefits. Off of whom? The refugees. There's a higher entrepreneurship amongst refugees than the native-born citizens. They do business. They start businesses. These refugees come with the spirit of starting a fresh page, of starting a new life. They're excited. Who gets the benefit? The government benefits. They contribute positively to the economy through taxes, through consumption. They buy, they sell. The economy benefits. and through social security contributions. A lot of Western countries today, they face an aging population, a decline in birth rates, and an aging population. They're in need of youth. They're in need of labor workers. Who provides that? Refugees. Refugees come and they work in a society that is aging, and their birth rates are declining. They stabilize the population. Refugees come with different perspectives. They add to the diversity of the society in the West. The West takes pride in its diversity. They take pride in their diversity of different nationalities. They take pride in offering new opportunities to different people. These refugees, they offer diversity. They come from different cultures, different countries, different languages. This adds to the strength of the West. And those who come, it's the greatest minds who come. The ones who lose is their native countries. When refugees come from Afghanistan, it's the West that's benefiting, and the ones who are losing is Afghanistan. When Iraqis come from Iraq and they seek asylum in the West is benefiting. And who's losing? Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Somalia, Yemen. They're using the most brightest minds. These brightest minds are coming to the West, and they're benefiting. These refugees, they come with resilience. They've endured the hardship of coming from the East to the West. They're not your average individual that doesn't have patience or tolerance. No, these refugees are strong, and they have what it takes to build a society, to build a community, to build a business. This is what the West needs. The best benefits. The West benefits. In fact, some of the major tech companies here in the West, in America, in Canada, those who started these companies, many of them were what? Refugees or immigrants. YouTube. Who doesn't have YouTube? Everyone has YouTube. Who doesn't have an account on YouTube? Everyone does. You know who the founder of YouTube is? A brother by the name of Jawad Karim. Where's Jawad Karim from? Bangladesh. The founder of YouTube is a Muslim brother from Bangladesh. In the year 2005, because there was no YouTube before 2005, the world discovered YouTube in 2005 because of a brother by the name of Jawad Karim, who one day went to the zoo, who took pictures and videos with an elephant, with a lion, and decided to post these videos online. And that idea was the stepping stone for YouTube. A year later, he sold his company to Google and it became YouTube. An immigrant. Originally from Bangladesh, born in Germany, he migrated to the United States of America in 1992. The founder of a multi-billion-dollar company. A migrant. A migrant. In short, when the West doesn't welcome migrants and refugees, they have to lose, not the migrants. When we in Canada or the US, we refuse migrants and refugees, guess what? We're losing. We're losing these brilliant minds who can contribute to our economy. They don't lose. This person could go to a neighboring country, could go to the UK, could go to the Netherlands. But the West has a lot to lose. We will lose these bright minds when we don't offer them asylum. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. My dear friends, the Quran has addressed migration and seeking asylum and seeking refuge in a lot of parts of the Holy Quran, in various chapters and in various verses. For example, the people of the cave, the verse that I began my lecture with. The people of the cave, those youth who left their city and who left an oppressive tyrant by the name of Diqyanus. The Quran tells us that they were refugees. إِذْ أَوَى الْفِتْيَةِ. Awa means they sought refuge. They left their city and they sought refuge somewhere else. They went to the cave. They sought refuge in that cave. إِذْ أَوَى الْفِتْيَةُ إِلَى الْكَهْفِ فقالوا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. They sought refuge. They left their city. They migrated. The Quran praises them for migrating. The Quran praises them for seeking refuge somewhere else. The Quran encourages migration. The Quran encourages seeking refuge. If you have an oppressive tyrant, your country is full of wars, instability, economic instability, political instability. You don't have opportunities at home to study, to work, to make a living. God's land is vast. Travel, leave, seek refuge, seek asylum. Allah says, look at this verse. وَمَنْ يُهَاجِرْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ يَجِدْ فِي الْأَرْضِ مُرَاغَمًا كَثِيرًا وَسَعَةً. He who migrates for the sake of Allah, not for the sake of dunya, but for the sake of Allah. You have an oppressive tyrant. You have an oppressive regime. You have the Taliban ruling you. You have Saddam Hussein ruling you. You have so-and-so ruling you. How did we all end up here, my dear friends? Why? Because we wanted to make millions? We wanted to live the Western dream? No. We feared our faith and our religion. How did we end up in Toronto, Canada? Because the fear for our faith, the fear for our school of thought. Here, alhamdulillah, we're sitting in Toronto commemorating the majalis of Imam Hussein better than the majalis in Baghdad and in Kabul and in Beirut and other countries. We came here for our faith, for our school of thought. The verse says, he who migrates for the sake of Allah will find God's land to be vast. This is God's country. Travel, seek asylum, migrate. Don't stick to one area and say, well, this is my destiny to be oppressed. No, who told you this is your destiny? It's my destiny to face injustice. Who told you this is your destiny? Your destiny is to live a life of dignity, of honor. Go and travel. وَمَنْ يَخْرُجْ مِنْ بَيْتِهِ مُهَاجِرًا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ ثُمَّ يُدْرِكْهُ الْمَوْتِ فَقَدْ وَقَعَ أَجْرَهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Look at this verse. The verse says that he who migrates for the sake of Allah, and in this process of migrating and traveling, he dies. What happens to this person? فَقَدْ وَقَعَ أَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. This person goes to meet his Lord. This person is migrating towards Allah. This person will fall in the hands of Allah Azza wa Jal, like a martyr, because he migrated for the sake of Allah. مهاجرا إلى الله ورسوله فقد وقع أجر ويدرك ثم يدركه الموت فقد وقع أجره على. Allah will recompensate and reward him for his migration. Do you find this in any other faith or religion where we're encouraged to migrate? When we're encouraged to seek asylum and to become refugees? Your country, we all love our country, and we will talk about this inshallah in the coming nights. That to love your country is part of faith. Part of faith. حُبُّ الْوَطَنِ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ. We will talk about this. When you love your country, I love my country. I love the city that I live in. I love the city of Karbala. This is part of faith. You live the city that you live in, you were born in. This is part of faith. Take pride in this. We will talk about that. But sometimes when your country does not offer you economic stability, educational stability, you cannot seek proper education, you cannot seek a proper job, you can't live a dignified life, go, travel, go to a different place. This is all God's land. Allah did not write it upon you to live in one place and die in that place forever. No. In fact, there's a verse in the Quran that says some people will be held accountable. Those who didn't go to majalis of Imam Hussein. Why? I was afraid. I was afraid of the government. I was afraid of the regime. I took off my hijab. Why? Because of the government. You know, in France, women in France, in public areas, they cannot wear hijab. Public universities, public hospitals, public schools, they can't wear hijab. I remember I went to a youth conference, maybe 2016, 2017. I was shocked. I had no idea that young women in France cannot wear hijab in public institutions, universities, hospitals. To get your driver's license, you have to take off your hijab. I told them, what are you guys doing? Why would you do this? Why would you allow your daughters to take off their hijab? Leave. Go to another country. This is God's great earth. There's so many countries. Why do you have to live in a place where you can't practice your religion freely? Why? Listen to this verse. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَوَفَّاهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. Some people, they oppress themselves. Yes, there's an oppressive regime. There's an oppressive tyrant. But by not migrating, I'm oppressing myself. I could move if I can. Sometimes some people can't. They can't afford it. They don't have the means. That's a different story. But if you have the means, why stay in a place where you're oppressed? قالوا فيما كنتم قالوا كنا مستضعفين في الأرض. Some people, Allah, the angels will ask them that why were you living in this country where you could not practice your religion freely? They said, because we were mustad'afin, we were powerless. We did not have the resources. قالوا ألم تكن أرض الله واسعة فتهاجروا فيها. They will be told that isn't God's land so vast that you could migrate? Why didn't you migrate? فأولئك مأواهم جهنم. These people will enter hellfire. فأولئك مأواهم جهنم وساءت مصيرا. Go migrate, travel. Look for new opportunities. Look for new places for yourself, for your family members. This is what the Quran teaches. The same way that the Quran encourages migrating and seeking asylum and seeking refuge in safe havens, Islam also says that if someone comes to you and seeks asylum from you, grant them asylum. If you are a stable country, you're a stable nation, you're doing well economically, militarily, educationally, and someone comes and asks for asylum, a refugee comes to you, do not deny anyone asylum. Look at this verse. وَإِنْ أَحَدٌ, and subhanAllah, the verse is talking about mushrikeen. If a mushrik seeks asylum from you, grant them asylum. Does it get stronger than this? The verse doesn't say if a Muslim or a mu'min seeks asylum from you, seeks refuge in your country, grant them. No, if a mushrik, وَإِنْ أَحَدٌ مِّنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ اسْتَجَارَكَ فَأَجُرْهُ. Istajarak means he sought asylum from you. He comes and says, let me stay in your country. I want political protection in your country. I want to live in your country. I want to study in your schools. I want to be treated in your hospitals. Grant him, even if he's a mushrik, even if he worships other gods or believes in idols, grant him asylum. وَإِنْ أَحَدٌ مِّنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ اسْتَجَارَكَ فَأَجِرْهُ حَتَّى يَسْمَعَ كَلَامَ اللَّهِ. Sahaba, some of the Sahaba of Rasulullah were refugees. They migrated to Habasha, Abyssinia, modern day Ethiopia. Rasulullah told them that there's a just king, Al-Najashi, in Abyssinia. Go to him, he will grant you asylum. You may go to him as refugees. And the brother of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ja'far al-Tayyar, was a political refugee. Several of the Sahaba, during the days of Mecca, before the migration to Medina, they were refugees. They sought asylum in Al-Habasha, Abyssinia, where there was a just king, Christian king, by the name of Najashi. They were refugees. Rasulullah was a refugee. Some are embarrassed to say we're refugees. Why are you embarrassed? What's embarrassing about seeking asylum in a country that you feel safe in? Your country is not safe. You will go to a country where you feel safe. Is this embarrassing? You're embarrassed to say that you're a refugee? What's so embarrassing about it? Rasulullah was a refugee. Rasulullah migrated from Mecca to Medina, and he was granted asylum in Medina. He was a refugee in Medina. Why would Rasulullah migrate? Because he was persecuted. He was persecuted by Quraysh and Mecca. Rasulullah did not feel safe in Mecca. He migrated to Medina, and he was a refugee. Rasulullah was a refugee. There's no shame in being a refugee. I see in our communities, there are some, no, I got an immigration visa. I'm not a refugee. I got an immigration visa. So what? What does that make you cooler than the refugee? That makes you more important than the refugee? Just because this person was granted asylum and is a refugee, but that person is you got an immigration visa. So what? Big deal. And then what? Why is there a taboo over being a refugee? Why is there a stigma over being a refugee? Rasulullah was a refugee. Some of the Sahaba were refugees. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was a refugee to Medina. Allah praises, look at the Quran, Allah praises the people of Medina. Why? For granting asylum to the Muhajirin from Mecca. You know, the Sahaba of Rasulullah were either Muhajirin from Mecca or they were Ansar from Medina. And both were good. Muhajirin because they migrated and they sought asylum. They were refugees. The people of Medina for welcoming the refugees, for granting asylum to the people of Mecca. Look at the verse. وَالَّذِينَ تَبَوَّأُوا الدَّارَ وَالْإِيمَانَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. It is speaking about the people of Medina. يُحُبُّونَ مَنْ هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِمْ. They love those who migrated to them. There are some people, they don't want visitors. They don't want visitors. They don't want migrants. Our countries for ourselves. No one is welcome. This is not the logic of the Quran. This is not the logic of the Sahaba and the Muhajirin and the Ansar. The Ansar, يُحِبُّونَ مَنْ هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِمْ. They like the fact that people are migrating to them, seeking asylum in their city. وَلَا يَجِدُونَ فِي صُدُورِهِمْ حَاجَةً مِمَّا أُوتُوا وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. Allah praises the Ansar, the people of Medina. Why? Because they welcomed the people of Mecca with open arms. They granted asylum. They welcomed the refugees. And not only that, they shared their property. If the people of Medina, the Ansar, if one of them had 2 homes, he would give a home to the people of Mecca and he would keep one home. If he had 2 camels, he would keep one and he would give the other to the migrants from Mecca. They shared their wealth. They shared their property. They shared their land. These were the early Muslims. إن الذين آمنوا وهاجروا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله والذين آووا ونصروا. Allah praises the Sahaba equally. Those who migrated and those who welcomed the migrants. It is not enough that you just migrate. It's important that you are welcomed with open arms, that you're granted asylum, that migrants are welcomed, My dear friends, Western countries should not change their policy. They've had an excellent policy of welcoming migrants and they were welcoming of refugees for decades. And like I said in the beginning, that the Western nations, they benefited from migrants and refugees. They collected the most brilliant minds from all across the world, from the Middle East, from China, from Japan, from Asia, from all over. They should not change their policy. America was founded by whom? By the natives? By the migrants. It was the migrants that founded America. It was Thomas Jefferson and the founding fathers. The founding fathers of America. Who were they? They were migrants. They migrated from Europe and they came to America to establish the new America. And the same goes for Canada. And the same goes for Australia. And the same goes for New Zealand. They were founded by The, they were founded by the migrants, by immigrants. Don't change your policies. Give people a chance. Grant people asylum. In war-torn areas where your countries were part of the instability in those countries, where your governments played a role in the wars in those countries. Now that you've ignited wars in those areas, they seek asylum in your countries. You close your doors? You shut your doors upon these refugees? This is racism, my dear friends. It all comes down to racism. It's about my country and my race. No one else is welcome. This is racist. This is racist mentality when we don't grant asylum and don't accept refugees. We're being racist. And unfortunately, this is a disease that's taking the world by storm. Imagine if the natives here in Canada and America were not welcoming of migrants. What would have happened? What would have happened? No one would have been here. America would not have existed. Canada would not have existed. We exist today because the Indians, the natives, were welcoming of migrants. The funny thing is, they say, no, these migrants, some of them, they're criminals. These refugees, some of them are criminals. We don't welcome them. We have to kick them out because a lot of them were criminals. Guess what? What did your forefathers do when they came to America and Canada? What did they do with the natives? Read the history of America and Canada. What did they do? What did they do to the natives, to the Red Indians? The massacres, the blood that was shed by taking their lands. By whom? The migrants. How come the early migrants are not criminals? Today the migrants are criminals? Today refugees are criminals? Those were not criminals who came and massacred the Red Indians here in America and Canada? I encourage the youth to read a book called A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. You will read facts and historical incidents in this book where you won't find it anywhere else. The true history of the United States and how it was formulated and founded by the immigrants. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. My dear friends, we have a duty towards migrants and refugees. Those who have come from Afghanistan, from Syria, from Iraq, from Yemen. We have a duty towards them. We have a responsibility towards them. We have to help them, support them, help them get situated, help them get settled. What is it that they need? Translation, we're there for them to translate. To find a job, we help them find a job. To get situated, we help them. They need a loan, we give them a loan. They need financial assistance, we help them. We invite them to our centers, to our Husseiniyah, to our masjid. There are some mosques, unfortunately, that are unwelcoming of refugees. Refugees are not welcome. Immigrants are not welcome. This is a mistake. This is unacceptable. وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. Mosques are open for all, regardless of their political background or how they entered, with an immigration visa or they were refugees. Masajid should be open to all. Make them feel welcome. Don't turn anyone away, and do not make them feel uncomfortable. We have to welcome them to our masajid and our mosques. Help them get situated. You know, in some Western countries, you know who helps refugees? The church. I've seen that local churches, they help refugees. They donate to them clothing, money, food. They even help them with their paperwork. They donate furniture to refugees. Do you know the amount of refugees that came from Muslim countries who converted to Christianity because of the help of the church? We have that responsibility, especially with our Muslim brothers and sisters who have come as refugees from that part of the world, from the war-torn areas. We have to welcome them. We have to help them. Why is it that the Christian churches are helping. It is our job and our responsibility. Some of them are converting to Christianity. Why? Because they were neglected by the Muslim community and they were welcomed by the Christian community. Shame on us. Shame on us for neglecting our duties and our responsibilities towards these migrants and refugees. And not just Muslim. Even if some of them are non-Muslim, we do our part. We help them. We help them find jobs. We support them economically, financially. We have to have a committee in every masjid that looks out after refugees and migrants. We collect donations for them, provide them with food, provide them with shelter. This is our responsibility. It's the least thing that we could do for these migrants. طيب. As for the refugees themselves, they also have a duty and responsibility. My dear friends, if you have sought asylum here, and you have run away from the dangers of back home, from the physical dangers, here there are other forms of dangers. Here there are spiritual dangers. Don't think that you left home and you came in the West, now life is going to be perfect. Life is going to be happy and you're going to be comfortable. Yes, you left one type of danger, here you face a different type of danger. Here you face spiritual dangers, religious dangers, social dangers. Here you fall into traps. Here the family unit is victimized. The family unit is in danger. Families are in danger. Our children are in danger. Your daughters are in danger. Make sure that when you arrive here, your daughters don't take off their hijab. And your children fall into doing drugs or going into gangs or falling into the traps of shaitan. This is very dangerous. There are some refugees, they receive asylum, political asylum. Physically they're safe, but morally and spiritually they're not. They fall into traps. And here you will see that the family becomes disintegrated. The husband goes in one path, the wife goes into another path. The children are lost. They're lost to shaitan, to the traps of Western society and pop culture. You have to make sure for refugees that you safeguard yourselves, you safeguard your family members. Yes, you ran away from physical danger and from tyranny and oppression, but you don't fall into another oppression. You don't lose your children. You don't lose your family members. You safeguard your faith and your children's faith. And this is a new start, a fresh start, a new chance, a new opportunity. Use it wisely. You did not have economic opportunities back home. Today you do. This is the land of opportunity. You have opportunities here to start fresh, start from zero, build a new life, start a business, make millions. You may do so. Use this opportunity. This is the land of opportunity. Do not become a parasite on the government. Don't come and assume that the government will offer you a salary until the end of life. No, make it on your own. Stand on your feet. This is the land of opportunity. You have the ability to make it on your own. Sky's the limit, but it takes self-determination. It takes having a high goal and achieving those goals. Study, work, achieve, contribute. Many who moved to the West were refugees, but they succeeded. They went to the best universities and they received the best jobs and they make the best of incomes. You can achieve. Make use of this opportunity. There are some that come and remain receiving welfare from the government for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Why? This is the land of opportunity. Here you can make yourself. You can make a new beginning for yourself and your family members. But all it takes is strong self-determination. Imam Hussein alayhi salam himself was a refugee, my dear friends. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam himself was a migrant. He left Medina and he migrated to Iraq. and he migrated. Imam Hussein alayhi salam himself was a migrant who sought asylum. Imam Hussein was persecuted. Imam Hussein was asked to give allegiance, yet he refused. And so he knew that he had to leave. He did not have a safe haven back home. He had to migrate. He left. Imam Hussein was a migrant. He came to Iraq as a refugee. He sought refuge in Karbala. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he says, Ala wa inna ad-da'i. He speaks about Ibn Ziyad. ألا وإن الدعي ابن الدعي قد ركز بين اثنتين بين السلة والذلة وهيهات من الذلة يأبى الله لنا ذلك ورسوله والمؤمنون. That the one who does not have a father, meaning Ibn Ziyad did not have a father. No one knows who his father is. 6 men claim to be his father, and hence we call him Ibn Marjana. We know who his mother is, but we don't know who his father is. He's given me 2 choices, either to surrender in disgrace or to face death. And by God, I will never choose disgrace. I choose death over disgrace. Why? Because Allah does not choose disgrace for us. The Prophet does not choose disgrace for us. And then he says, أَلَا وَإِنِّي زَاحِفٌ بِهَذِهِ الْأُسْرَةِ. I will migrate with my family. Imam Hussein announced his migration from Medina to Iraq. ألا وإني زاحف بهذه الأسرة على قلة العدد. I will migrate with low numbers. وكثرة العدو, and with a lot of enemies. وخذلة الناصر, and with loyal supporters neglecting me. These verses of poetry have been attributed to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. تركت الخلق طرا في هواك وأيتمت العيال لكي أراك. فلو قطعتني بالحب إربايا لما حن الفؤاد إلى سواك. On the 2nd of Muharram, historians mention that Imam Hussein alayhi salam was in the middle of the desert along with his companions. All of a sudden, in the middle of the desert, the horse of Imam Hussein stops. Imam Hussein alayhi salam asks for another horse. The 2nd horse also does not move. The Imam asks for a 3rd, for a 4th horse. None of them move. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam asks, Ashabi masmu hadhihi al-ard. My companions, tell me the name of this land. What is the name of this land? قالوا إنها نينوى. Someone said, my master, the name of this land is Nainawa. قال وهل لها اسم آخر. Does it have another name? قالوا تسمى الغاضريات. They said the name of this land is Ghadariyat. He said وهل لها اسم آخر. They sold him Attaf. They kept on mentioning name after name until someone said, Sayyidi tusamma Karbala Karbala. فتنفس الصعداء وقال اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الكرب والبلاء. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he heard the name of Karbala, he sighed, he took in a breath, and he said, Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from trials and tribulations. Ashabi inzulu, my companions, come down and camp here. فها هنا محط رحالنا. This is where we will camp. ها هنا مقتل أصحابنا. This is where my men will be massacred. ها هنا تسبى نساؤنا. ها هنا تسبى نساؤنا. This is where our women will be taken captives. Ashabi and Zulu, they all came down from their camels and horses, each one camping in a place. Imam Hussein had his tent. Abil Fadl al-Abbas has his tent. Al-Akbar, Al-Qasim, all of them having their own tents. Zainab alayhi salam, she asked what is happening. They tell her that Imam Hussein alayhi salam has asked us to camp here and to come down here in this land. Zainab comes down from her camel, not knowing where's this place. It's a desert, it's out in the nowhere. She came down nervous, anxious. Akhi Aba Abdullah, why are we staying here? Well, this is nowhere, this is in the middle of the desert. My sister, this is where we shall remain. This is our new home, this is our new camp. Sayyidah Zainab came down in Karbala, yet her brother Al-Abbas was still here. Al-Qasim, Ali Al-Akbar, she relied on them. Her brothers, her nephews, her son Muhammad and Aoun, they were all still alive, surrounding Sayyidah Zainab when she entered in Karbala. But there was a different scene on the eve of Ashura when Zainab was departing from Karbala. This time they were all scattered on the battleground. She looks to her right, she looks to her left, and all she can see is body parts scattered on the battleground. None of her brothers, none of her sons, none of her nephews. She shouts to her brother, Akhi Aba Abdullah, Anta Akhi. She starts looking in the battleground. Sayyidah Zainab enters the battleground and she goes from one corpse to another, one corpse to another. Finally she sits at a corpse, stripped of its armor, beheaded, a headless body, where its ribs, you know, when you see a corpse is still intact, all the body parts are still there, you see the chest. But when she arrived at the body of Imam Hussein, there was no chest because all the ribs were pounded, all the ribs were crushed. She sits at the body of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Akhi Aba Abdullah, Anta al-Hussein Akhi, Anta Himana, Anta Rajana. Are you my brother Hussein? Are you our hope? Are you our rescue? And then she put her hands underneath what was remaining of the body of her brother Imam Hussein, and she raises it and she says, Allahumma Allahumma inna hadha al-Husayn ibn Ali قربان نبيك محمد فتقبله بأحسن القبول. Oh Allah, this is Hussein, the son of Ali, the sacrifice of your Prophet Muhammad, so accept him, O Allah. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العلي الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته، ولا هما إلا فرجته، ولا عيبا إلا سترته، ولا خوفا إلا آمنته، ولا رزقا إلا بسطته، ولا شملا إلا جمعته، ولا مرضا إلا شفيته، ولا غائبا إلا حفظته وأدنيته، ولا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا والآخرة لك فيها رضا ولنا فيها صلاح إلا قضيتها ويسرتها يا أرحم الراحمين. ولأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والعلماء والشهداء نقرأ سورة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.